Paused. So sorry about that.
Okay.
Go ahead, Lynn. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, I was just thanking Mike for his systematic approach to the Discord channel.
Yes.
I've seen it make a difference in other groups, and always get messed up. Like, is it channels or like?
So it's server level, which
Okay.
is fat juicy deals. Then you have categories. So each category right now, all you can see is based on the role. And it's mostly just for training purposes or general conversation at that role level. I'm about to apply all of the regional setups. So Rob, what region are you dispoing for again?
DFW.
Okay, so shortly, owners, managers, and Dispo for DFW will see a DFW section, or excuse me, category. And in that category, you will see a breakdown by acquisitions team. So Atlanta Team 1, Atlanta Team 2, Atlanta Team 3, and Atlanta Dispo. So Lynn's going to ignore the acquisitions team. She's just going to look at Rob in the Dispo level. And the reason that there's, just one Dispo level is because that's how many people we have right now. So if Lynn needs to step in to help Rob, she only has to check one channel because Rob should be talking to all of his acquisitions managers there. But only Rob has to look at all the individual ones to see if he's got to dig in deeper on a specific unit or something like that. But I'll go into that a little bit more. Without showing you the visual, I know it's a little harder to process, but as I said, you only have to, you're going to get access to a bunch of stuff. And then I'm just going to give you the recommended, hey, mute this category or mute these channels, and then just pay attention to what's still open, because everything else will just be noise. So just like in a CRM where you kind of only get a ping or a flag when something's related to you, I'm trying to make the Discord match that. If we were doing things differently, I might say something different from Discord, because I'm sure some of you have used or heard of Slack or some of these other team management things, but they have their own pros and cons. Since everyone's essentially already on Discord if they joined Elephant, or already on Discord if they're a Gator, or already on Discord if they did sub 2, it's just easier to say, okay, they're already in this playground, Pace's playground, so let's just, take a little walk through the woods and then bring them to our playground. One way I look at it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because I've heard of Slack, but I've never used it. But I do use Discord. So seeing that we were going to notice that we was going to use Discord was good to know. Because I think a lot of people, like you said, coming over from Paces, all they know right now is kind of Discord. So when they see us in this Discord, at least they know how to operate it already.
Yeah, hopefully they've kind of gotten more acclimated, which is not going to be true for everybody, but it's better than saying, hey, let's come over to Slack, and now you got to learn a whole nother system. They're already overwhelmed with terminology and new systems and processes. So like this at least kind of reduces the complexity of entry.
Yes. Okay.
Lynn, before we move on to speaking directly with the Dispos, anything else that you want to add as far as your role and involvement or suggestions?
Well, I think this will evolve, right? Like, so I'm excited to work with each of you, and I want to be a resource for you, but I think we all have enough experience that we can kind of roll with this as it's evolving. But I would say if you notice something that we can document, that we can create a best practice or an SOP out of, let's raise that to the surface. Ralph, I was reviewing a few things, the SOPs and things last night. I think it's a great starting point. Do I think that's where we're going to end up 6 months from now? No, I definitely believe it's going to evolve, and that's going to be populated by working through the processes every day and learning and working together. I'm happy to be a resource. For those of you that don't know, I've not been in sub 2 super duper long, 4 or 5 months, maybe 6 months, something like that. But I have been wholesaling for over 2 years now, and I had found sub 2 and some other groups and trainings and masterminds that I was investing in for myself through my coaching program that I developed. And so I was teaching wholesalers for a couple of years, about 1,500 students. I don't drive it like aggressively, but it's kind of like a natural thing. So that had been my focus coming in. And I was telling Rob last night through one of the comment chats, like, not that I'm an expert, but I've learned a lot by default. That should read some lumps that I've had to, learn along the way with, like, how to dispo via social media and different things like that. And some of you may have already learned those lessons, but I'm happy to kind of infuse that knowledge where I can, where some of those things that I've taught other students that have just been starting out, that we've learned along the way to help improve the processes. So I'm excited about taking this on this scale with a systematic and centralized approach. Like, this is speaking my love language. I'm excited. So please let me know how I can be a resource to you. I know it's going to probably be a little wobbly as we get our feet underneath us, but I think it sounds like already we've got the right people in place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody at this level, Alex and I both felt really good about. So, we have, Josh will be coming soon. Hopefully he'll join us for this meeting. If not, he'll have the replay. But between Josh and Rob and Aji, talking to them on the phone, we feel really, really good about all three of you. We talked to others that were interested in Dispo, that some of them need a little bit more refinement before they're ready. And others that we feel like they're basically ready, but they don't have that much experience in acquisition. So it would be good for them to get that experience before moving over to Dispo. But you three are really going to be a key to making this flow, to developing the right atmosphere. We want to make sure that everyone sees this as here for us. This is our tool, our organization to make things flow smoothly, and deals come in, their contracts are closed, they're dispoed, and everyone, they just have a little part in this whole process that just compounds on itself, and it becomes easier and easier as we move along. So that sort of atmosphere is really what we're wanting to infuse all the way down. A lot of times when you're at the level of property finder and coming in, you might come in with these preconceived notions. Maybe it's fear of competition. Maybe it's having a scarcity mindset, different things that make it more challenging to actually have good relationships within investing and good deal flow. So, we want to make sure that the mindset is something of sharing, helping, making everybody successful. And you guys all have that mindset. We really appreciate that.
Yes, indeed. And then speaking of that for a second as well, the Dispo team, even with acquisitions, because we do want everybody to move up. So your input is going to be vital to helping us move those people as well. So as they're doing really well, and you notice that, okay, this person is taking a lot of initiative, they might want to be Dispo at some point. You guys can let us know, like, hey, I see this happening, and this person or that person will be really good in this role as we start to open up more markets as well. So again, this just goes back to communication with everybody here, and then on the team as well down below, because we want everybody to move up. So that help would be really, really good as well.
Yeah, and in that level of communication there too, as you're working with your acquisitions folks, some of them don't want to move up. Some of them do. I had one guy who already said he wanted to move down. Like he was originally, he said Dispo, and then he's like, no, I'm going to be a property finder. I don't know if it was a time thing or just overwhelmed or what, but that's all good. But as Lynn mentioned earlier, if you can take what you learn and make a unique video just for the group, anyone else coming in is going to be able to hit that knowledge base. And I can try to make something specific to make it easier to search and find that type of information. But like, keep an ongoing buy box for your market. Like at any given time, the acquisitions manager shouldn't even have to ask what kind of base formula are we working with? Like it obviously we're going to have some unique deals, but if you can keep that buy box tight where we fit the Venn diagram overlaps the most possible potential buyers at any given time, then you'll know, oh yeah, I've got to go to this direction for this type of dispo or this direction for another. But they will try to always hit the biggest possible buyer pool that you have as you develop and work. So keep it so that they always know what the buy box is, if not day by day, at least week by week, because some markets are going to be working off a base formula of 85%. Florida was working off 110% for a little while. Like it was insane. I know Denver at one point was like 150%. So like now we're probably all in that 55, 60% range, but you will know your market better than everybody. And as long as you're keeping track of that, Lynn will know, the owners will know, anyone jumping in will know without having to wonder, what am I looking for? Because Jacksonville is going to be different than Atlanta. Like whatever combination, you want somebody to be able to just hit the ground running to back you up, because, this collective, I keep calling it a collective. This collective is really for everyone's benefit. I don't think anyone needs to shield or feel defensive or proprietary about any information. I like to be fully transparent. Even if I want to do something that Ralph or Alex or Pri says, nah, I'll be like, well, I want to do it. How can we make this work? And if it doesn't work with y'all, I'll say, okay, how can I do this without y'all, or whatever the case is. But I don't think they would say no necessarily. Just let's just be upfront and transparent about everything, so that there's no no guarded information, no prevention. Like, I don't know a better way to put it. Just like, let's be open and honest and moral and ethical amongst each other and in our dealings. And I think everyone wins.
Now, that's a great way to put it, because that's where, when we first started this, that's the first thing me and Ralph discussed was transparency. Like, there's nothing to hide. There's nothing that we can't share with you guys, especially the team that's here. And the trickle down effect will be the same. We want everybody to do well. So with that and doing well, we need to share information, even with buyers. Some people, well, in the wholesale world, they're protective of their buyers. It's like my buyer, but buyers are talking to everybody. So as the more that we share and the more that we talk, it'll all come together. So anybody that has anything that can improve on the systems that we have, feel free to share it. And like Mike said, we can try to implement it and see if it works. If it doesn't work, then we try to figure out a way to make it work or do something different. But information that we're going to share is going to only make us better.
Yeah, one thing about, right now we're starting with the Elephant Challenge Privy methodology. And there's a method to the madness. We have this foundation of knowledge that PACE has been helping and building upon. So all of the property finders coming in, they've got their basic training outlined for them already. So they don't have to worry about convincing somebody to sell their property, because everyone that's listed in MLS already raised their hand and said, I want to sell, right? So there's certain steps that just make it easier for newbies to come in and be able to work this system. After we get this founded, we want to jump into more and more channels, including off market. And don't let me forget, Rob, we need to talk to you about that before we end this meeting here, because one of your acquisitions wants to do off market right now. So we'll talk about that in just a couple minutes. But
I gotta go get her, huh?
Yeah, he's going to
Yeah.
Let's do it.
But Mike had mentioned, have some ideas. Maybe Ralph and Alex will like it. Maybe they don't. We are totally open to ideas. We love that. We just want to make sure that it doesn't get too diversified and diluted, that the success model falls apart. We believe in, like, you make one thing successful and then you move on to the next. and then the next, and then the next. If you try to do too much, or you have, in this case, we already have like 80 people involved. But as we get 300 people involved, if we're all over the board without, finalizing one thing, working the bugs out on that one thing,
Mhm.
and we're trying to do 10 things, nothing's going to succeed. So we just want to do it in an organized fashion. And, we want to get in creative finance. We want to get in multifamily. We want to get in a lot of different areas that's on the board to put in, but just not too fast that we don't, sound down our people. The main thing is the people working with us. So if we try to get them in so many different directions, it's just going to be too much. So that's the idea of starting with the Privy Elephant Challenge type of workflow, is that foundation is already laid and it's good for newbies. So we just sound that down and then move on to the next.
Mhm.
I'm sure I'm not in the minority in this thinking here, but I'm open to other people's perspective for sure. But I believe our biggest risk, our riskiest point of failure is the team of property finders, because if they are not nurtured, if they are not stood up properly, if there's not a mechanism of communication and learning, it's just, that's going to be our point where we have to shore that up. So I believe 100% in that laser focused vision of this is where we're going to start, everybody, with the exception of your dude, or whoever the guy that wants to go off market. But I think that's the thing, that if I had to say, well, we've got to pour 99% of our energy here, it's got to be on getting that property finder team stood up properly.
100%.
We actually have something to work with, because that's
Mhm.
also going to be our biggest risk of attrition as well.
Yeah.
100, 1000%.
And I don't mean to put anybody on the hot seat. I know this is still like rapidly evolving. Do we have like a core values or a mission statement that everybody can anchor to? Is that something that we could develop?
It's something we could
We
develop.
can definitely
Absolutely.
develop. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Right now, just trying to, run 100 miles an hour to get this thing
Well, I think this
flowing.
group of people could really help populate that and have it be something that we can all kind of like, but it doesn't, if you've ever done that, it doesn't have to be super complicated, but something that we can use to anchor the whole entire team, regardless of what role you're on.
Love it, Lynn.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
On the side of actually dispoing, so Alex and I had been building a dispo list in North Carolina, but we're not working North Carolina because of the non-refundable due diligence clause that the agents train sellers with, and it's on their contract. So because of that, we have our lists that we got from Pace as well as from Benson. But those lists are not worked. So there's going to be people in them that are simply not buyers. It's a cold list. So if you guys could infuse warm buyers into the list, or just keep working that list, or find new ones straight off of Privy or the other methods, that's worth the starting point for all these new markets. And as we establish a new market, again, it'll be a starting point for that new market. So, as dispos, if you need help on knowing how to find new buyers other than the list that we're going to be providing, we're happy to help you to do that. Within sub 2, they have training on how to get buyers. In the elephant challenge, both of the previous elephant challenges, he showed how to find buyers through Privy, and there's other methods as well that work. But the Privy method, researching the LLC, you can download, like if you go into your region and you display the sold houses, you can download that list, and it has all the LLCs, and then you just skip trace them. Like if one LLC sold 4 houses, that's a lot stronger potential than one that only sold 1 house from that list. But we can help guide you to be able to build that list if you need more help in being able to build it. Lynn has a lot of experience, but Alex and I are also available, and you guys can help each other out. And Mike too. Mike has a lot of experience as well. So I don't want to forget Mike there.
Mike always he sort of runs under the radar, but he's actually a powerhouse. The more you listen to what he's giving away.
Mhm.
Yeah, he's very valuable.
And I do want to say, I've been at this for 3.5 years. I'm not an expert. I'm still learning new things all the time. But for this collective, I'm trying to stay in the background and not take control of anything, because I like systems and I like making things work in logical ways. So I am deferring to anything that Alex and Ralph want. And if I have a problem, I'll bring it to them and we'll discuss it and then apply it the way they want, because this is not my thing. I'm just an opinionated person.
And we love opinionated people.
The wisdom that Mike, the wisdom, I actually echo that as well. Like what I've done in my past is just a perspective, and it doesn't necessarily have to directly influence what we do here. So it's always, I love building stuff. So bringing all the different collective opinions together will be really interesting to see how this fleshes out. Aji, you're in the Atlanta market, right?
You're muted.
You're
Aji.
muted.
No, I'm not in the Atlanta market. I'm in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
My markets are Virginia and North Carolina.
Okay.
Mm.
So Aji's going to be working Jacksonville.
Jacksonville. Right.
Yes.
I don't know why I thought you were going to be in Atlanta. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Aji and Rob, any questions from your side or comments you'd like to share?
Ladies first.
Nothing yet.
Well, we really appreciate you guys. You guys are, of course, Lynn has the entire team, but she's going to be depending upon you guys to guide the acquisition, to close the contracts. I mean, I should say, close the deals, find the dispo,
Mhm.
and make sure your whole team is aligned properly. If you're having trouble dispoing, you're trying, Lynn will be there to help you out.
Yep.
That's, her primary role is on the dispo side of things. So she's your go-to person. And then beyond that, she'll also be looking downstream as well to acquisition and below, but you guys are her number one focus. So if you're having trouble, you're not finding somebody, talk to Lynn. We don't want to our goal is to not let any deals go. We know that's not really possible. The national average is 50% of contracts end up being dispoed, being completed. We want to take that 50% up and up and up. If we can close 80%, we can dispo 80% of the deals. That's awesome. Whatever we can do. But Lynn will be looking at all the dispos on her team and seeing what the percentages are, and then trying to help them out. And if we have a 10-day inspection period and we're already halfway through that, Lynn will be stepping in and saying, hey, how's it going? How can I help out? What are the challenges? And seeing if she can help you with that. But what we want is, if we can't dispo internally before our time is gone, at least take it externally, like to Keegley, Dispo Titans, or something else, and try to make it work. Even though we end up losing 50%, it's better than losing 100%. But the idea is that we can do it internally, that we take that due diligence period and divide it up. Like maybe you'll get, I don't know exactly, we'll be looking for Lynn's input, but maybe 3 days on your own to try to dispo it. If you can't, then Lynn steps in for a couple more days, 3 more days or whatever. And then if she can't, then we send it out the door while there's still time for somebody else to help out.
Dispo Titans require at least a week. Now, will they do something with less runway than that? Possibly, but it's going to be the deal itself is going to be the driver behind how much runway they're going to need. But typically their SOP is they need a week runway minimum to dispose something. So we don't want to waste too much time there. I mean, and even the ones we get into escrow, we also know that there's going to be potentially a 50% that don't even close. So we want to make sure we give ourselves as many advantages there as possible. While we've been chatting, and maybe this mechanism already exists, but I know it goes without saying, we'll need to lean on social media, Facebook, Craigslist, different places as one outlet for dispositions. I'm sure you guys have your own lists, but do we need like a centralized mechanism for doing that, especially by the different target markets that we're going to be in? I'd say start putting that together personally, like where you're going to be advertising, and then maybe we can raise that to like a protected spreadsheet or something we can all have visibility to see if there's anything that bubbles up that we can expound on, or maybe, I don't know, help with. I'm just trying to look around the corner, think about what we're going to need.
And Lynn,
Okay.
can you run the weekly Dispo meetings?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Mondays might make a lot of sense, but if we're going to do the Dispo team meeting, we'd probably want to do it earlier in the day Monday, so that with that ripple effect, any cascading of information could happen for the rest of the teams. Does anybody absolutely hate Monday meetings and would prefer a Tuesday meeting? Does it work for everybody on Monday? And
Mondays are good.
Mondays are good. Does anybody have like a traditional 9 to 5 that they need to work around?
Define traditional.
Huh?
Define traditional.
I mean,
I'm being paid for a W-2 right now. Well, what does that mean?
oh, I don't know. Like, I know when I worked at Amazon, well, I've worked remotely for so many years. I don't even know what traditional is anymore. Somebody said it, I can't remember who it was. It might have been Flip Hacking Live that I went to a couple weeks ago, but it resonated with me so purely. It's like, I am completely unfit for the corporate environment now. I'm not fit to be somebody's employee. I'm like, oh, that's
I guess we're all on that same boat.
that is, I don't even know how I would function in that capacity now.
I'm unemployable.
Yeah.
Unemployable. That's what they said. They're like, I am now unemployable. Yeah.
I feel like I've reached that stage of unemployable then. The same thing.
It's a good feeling. It's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll run those meetings.
Okay.
Aji, I will send you a message and see what timeframes work. Does everybody on this team want to be involved in those, or just myself and the dispos? I don't want to clog your calendars where it's not necessary.
Go ahead and
Yeah,
send it
that's
to me.
Fine.
Initially I'll probably sit in, but as time rolls on, we'll be involved in other things.
I think that's a great idea. All right, I'll set something up.
Include me in every meeting and I will just pop in as available.
Beautiful. Awesome. Miss Pre, do you want to be included too?
Yes, please.
All right.
And for those that don't know, Miss Pre is Alex's wife.
Yes. And she's at work right now. That's why she's not on camera.
Right on.
So yeah, feel free, Dispo team, even now, even before the deals are happening, to start building your Dispo list. Start calling buyers, warming them up. That way, when the deals start rolling in, you've already got a foundation. And we're gonna upload that list. We'll have to talk to Mike and figure out how to do that for each of the markets. But you can either use that list that we'll be uploading, or you can go find your own off of the different social channels, off of Privy or off of other methodologies. But please don't waste time until the deals start happening, the deal flow. It'll take a few days, maybe a week, maybe more, but hopefully less, before we actually start making these deals happen. So in that meantime, you can start getting yourself set up to be able to dispo rapidly once the deals start happening.
Yeah, And that's gonna revert back to, I guess we have this conversation with acquisitions as well, as far as the deal finders, this having that buy box and being tight. So when those deals come in, they're gonna be actually deals at first, you know what I mean, or deals are not. But to tighten them up and then kind of make sure that they're doing what they need to do. As Len said, just nurture all the deal finders to make sure that we're taking care of them and that they're submitting their deals every day and doing what they have to do as well. Because as you know, they're driving the boat at this point, as far as getting us the deals in.
I was thinking maybe in these initial stages for the first few weeks or months to make it sort of generic in terms of what we're looking for, you know, like bread and butter, 3-bed, 2-bath, and standard to try to get that deal flow built up. Based on my experience coming from Elephant Challenge and all, you know, all the people who were bringing me stuff, all the baby elephants, a lot of it was so far one way or another, you know, 2-bed, 1-baths that nobody wants, or 30 acres. Hey, I found a great property. Like, okay, let's bring it back to the basics. Let's work on those minimum 3 2s and get a few reps under our belt so we can learn and not perfect, but improve that pipeline that we're doing. And then we can talk about moving on to bigger and better things.
How do you guys feel about capping the ARV at like 500 or 600 for now?
I think that would be great. So like in San Antonio, I've told people, don't bring me anything above 400,000.
Yeah.
You know,
And I think it's going to be
80,
market
70%.
specific. You know, we're
Right.
going to be taking on Memphis, and Memphis does not have the same ARVs as other places, right? So we want to,
Every market's gonna have that shift, but like, whatever your market is, you will define it to the acquisitions people. So it'll be similar across the board, but
Yes.
there will be some filters that just change because of the market.
so as this
Like
goes,
what, go ahead.
sorry, Aji. Go ahead.
Oh, like what Rob was talking about, but I was just wondering if you guys have experience in these markets already and you guys have information that we can use. Because if you're new to a market, you don't know what, like if they buy a lot of 3 beds and 2 baths, you know, the standards for that specific market. That way we put that into our, you know, we would tell our property finders to find those things that the buyers want in that market. So you guys have experience in these markets? that we can
Lynn
use
is
some
going
of
to
that
be
info?
outlining that. So
Okay.
Lynn is going through and creating constants, like what's the ARVs, what's the
Yeah.
percentage, profit percent, and those sort of things
Mhm.
to help out each market. But that's just like an initial shell that we're going to be working with, an initial framework. But you guys are going to know your markets better than anybody. So, you know, as you work your markets and you gain that inside information, then those can be updated and you can inform your acquisition team. But we're not necessarily in the markets that you're working.
Okay.
So, you know, Lynn has a lot of knowledge and she's going to be updating those calculators. But at the same time, you know, you guys are going to have, in the end, more information than anybody over time. You'll be communicating regular with your acquisition team and then working together to fine tune and sound those numbers down.
Okay.
Yeah,
Lynn?
and a lot of the time too, as well, when you're talking to your buyers, a lot, you know, when you're having those personal relationships, you'll know what they're buying anyway. So that can dictate as well as because the buyers are the one that's going to dictate the market for the most part.
Mhm.
So the more information and the more personalized you have with your buyers list, that can also help you move the deals and what they're actually looking for, opposed to like Rob's just being all over the place.
Yeah, and the feedback you're going to get from your acquisitions team
Mhm.
in your market, the more conversations they're having, if they're having really meaningful conversations with your agents, they should be gleaning some like real-time information about the markets. I mean, I can talk about Jacksonville a little bit. Like if we put like a generic filter of 30-minute drive outside of city center, that's a very different experience at Jacksonville and DFW and Atlanta. Like that might be 10 miles outside the city center. So it's probably going to be very specific to the areas, because in Jacksonville, you have residential stuff that's just like, hey, I just live here. And then you have touristy stuff and coastal stuff versus inland stuff. So I think your buy box is going to have to be a little bit broader to encompass that. And Ralph, Alex, I think something we might want to think about too are county lines versus city lines, zip codes and things like that. So we'll probably need to gather most of that for these key target markets to make sure we're giving the teams the most, giving them good guardrails to stay within.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
definitely. And you know, the dispo agents or dispo managers will be the primary ones to help define those lanes. But as you're looking at your you know, the territory, you want to focus on where the buyers are, right? And of course, looking in Privy and seeing where the fix and flips have been happening is a good way to determine those boundary lines. But you know, we want to have a feeling of this is mine, right? So you guys have ownership of your territory, and kind of, and as you're talking to buyers, as you're talking to your acquisition on the other side, you're building that foundation of here's where we work, here's our buy box, here's our median, you know, where the real deals or most of them are at. So that this is your baby. We're here to help. Lynn's here to help, but it's, you know, a lot of it will fall on the dispos.
Yeah, I think that's a really solid point, Ralph. You guys can take a lot of ownership and leadership in driving that and helping kind of figure out what those parameters are. Use me as a resource, however I can help you. I do think we need to come up with a buy box criteria. That what are the categorical criteria, and then let each dispo region figure out what that is, what the parameters of that category are for their area. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Like, are we filtering based on year built? Are we filtering based on bed bath count? Are we filtering based on location, ARV? Like, those are the things that I would say give some thought to, and then maybe we can have a quick follow-up and define that more permanently.
Yeah. And you're each going to have like 3 acquisitions underneath you. And just like we're telling you, you know, this is your baby, you have ownership. We want the acquisitions to have some ownership too. So, you know, we don't want anybody to feel like they're being forced down a certain path. We want to guide them and help them. But at the same time, we want them to feel a feeling of ownership for their roles and their responsibilities. So if you see, you know, with your 3 acquisitions, you know, just like Lynn is going to lead you guys weekly in a dispo meeting, you're going to lead your acquisition in a weekly meeting as well. And you'll see who's doing good and who's not doing good, and be able to guide them so that if maybe their criteria is too tight of what they're refining, filtering out in Privy, or maybe it's too loose, you know, maybe the build era, they're trying to do it too new, or they're trying to do it too old. But you can, you know, compare notes between your acquisition people and be able to help them to adjust so that they're more successful. Real quick, you know, we're almost time for the next meeting, which if you guys can come, we would really like it for you to be there, because the acquisition people are your team. And that way you can provide input in this meeting, but also, you know, you can hear what we're telling them. So you have that foundation to go off of as you're talking to them. Rob, we mentioned the one guy, Jorge, that he pulled a list in Atlanta of code violations.
Violations.
Yeah,
Atlanta?
in Atlanta, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no, not you, Josh. Hold on.
Josh.
Yeah, Josh has Atlanta.
Josh.
Sorry,
Yeah,
Rob.
I'll update Josh more specifically before the replay, but he'll be able to work with him on that list as well as the standard property.
Yeah.
finder.
Jorge Medina. I believe his name was.
Yeah, so yeah, we'll talk to Josh separately about it. But so, you know, we want to make sure that we're not too diversified, or that we want Jorge to be successful too. So Jorge, he's got this personality where his focus is a little bit out there. So we want to kind of pull him in a little bit to help him to stay focused. He wanted to do A, B, C, and D. So we're trying to help him to just do A.
Hey.
Yeah. So, you know, if that's privy, or if that's this list of off-market code violations, either way, but just so that there's that focus, because if you're not focused, you're not going to be successful. But anyway, sorry, Rob, I got confused on who it was, but.
Hey, before we wrap up, I looked at my calendar. The clearest spot continually is noon on Mondays Eastern time. Rob, you're Central, correct?
Yeah, Texas time, that'd be 11 o'clock, which should be fine.
Should be fine. Audrey, does 12 Eastern
Okay.
work for you?
Yeah.
Okay, and everybody else as well? Okay, so we can adjust if needed, but I'll go ahead. I've got that held on my calendar. After we get done with this string of meetings, I will send that invite out, and we can have that for next week. I think it makes a lot of sense to definitely have it Monday, because we're coming off the heels of a new elephant challenge. And then we'll already have our existing team to kind of get our hands around. But if we need to meet later in the week, I'm certainly available to meet as often to kind of get this thing going.
By the way, that elephant challenge, I think, was rescheduled for the next week.
Oh, goodness gracious.
So I saw that in Facebook this morning.
I
Yeah, it
literally
got pushed off like
calendar.
4 more days or something.
Okay,
To next week. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Ralph, I think it will be helpful if we can do a little bit of market research for each of these markets and have like a buy box, even though that buy box will be, refined as we go on, but something to start with, something that we can give the property finders to kind of guide them. Otherwise,
Absolutely.
they
Yeah.
won't know exactly what to do.
No,
That's-
totally. Same thought that Rob was saying. I think that each one of you can develop your buy box, that you feed that information down to your acquisition team.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you, Aji.
Yeah.
And that kind of wraps up our time. We have it's a different Zoom link. So we're starting that up at 12 Eastern time. So if you guys can be there, that would be awesome. Any last comments before we cut out?
I'd just like to say thank you to everybody that's joined here. It's feels really good, and I feel like going forward, we're gonna do some big things here. I like it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all. Appreciate it. See you in
yes,
a bit.
and Miss Pre. Miss Pre has a mission to become unemployable. I love it.
Yes. Yeah, well, we're working on that.
All right, we'll see you all soon.
All right.
All
Thank
right.
you, guys. All right.